Someday we'll meet and you'll dry all my tears and whisper sweet little words in my ear, hugging and a kissing. Oh, what we've been missing. Lover gal, where can you be? It's not the words so much as the great harmonic tune and the way Billy sings it, like a woman stroking her man's hair in soft lamplight. The winds howled. I got cold. Bea and Ponzo came back and we rattled off in the old truck to meet Freddie. Freddie was now living with Ponzo's woman, Big Rosie, and we tooted the horn for him in rickety alleys. Big Rosie threw him out. Everything was collapsing. That night, Bea held me tight, of course, and told me not to leave. She said she'd work picking grapes and make enough money for both of us. Meanwhile, I could live in Farmer Heffinger's barn and be down the road from her family. I'd have nothing to do but sit in the grass all day and eat grapes. In the morning, her cousins came to get us another truck. I suddenly realized thousands of Mexicans all over the countryside knew about Bea and I, and that it must have been a juicy, romantic topic for them. The cousins were very polite and, in fact, charming. I stood on the truck platform with them as we rattled into town, hanging onto the rail and smiling pleasantries, talking about where we were in the war and what the pitch was. There were 5 cousins in all, and every one of them was nice. They seemed to belong to the side of Bea's family that didn't fuss off like her brother. But I loved her brother. I loved that wild Freddie. He swore he was coming to New York and join me. I pictured him in New York, putting off everything till mañana. He was drunk in a field someplace that day. I got off the truck at the crossroads and the cousins drove Bea home. They gave me the high sign from the front of the house, and the father and mother weren't home. They were off picking grapes, so I had the run of the house for the whole afternoon. It was a 4-room shack. I couldn't imagine how the whole family managed to live there. Flies flew over the sink. There were no screens, just like in the song. The window she is broken, and the rain she's coming in. Bea was at home now and puttering around pots. Her 2 sisters giggled at me. The little children screamed in the road. When the sun came out red through the clouds of my last valley afternoon, Bea led me to Farmer Heflinger's farm. Farmer Heflinger had a prosperous farm up the road. We put crates together. She brought blankets from the house, and I was all set except for a great hairy tarantula that lurked at the pinpoint top of the barn roof. Bea said it wouldn't harm me if I didn't bother it. I lay on my back and I stared at it. I went out to the cemetery and I climbed a tree. In the tree I sang Blue Skies. Bea and Raymond sat in the grass. We had grapes. In California, you chew the juice out of grapes and spit the skin away, a real luxury. Nightfall came. Bea went home for supper and came back to the barn at 9 o'clock with delicious tortillas and mashed beans. I lit a wood fire on the cement floor and made light. We screwed on the crates. Bea got up and cut right back to the shack. Her father was yelling at her. I could hear him from the barn. She'd left me a cape to keep warm. I threw it over my shoulder and skulked through the moonlight vineyard to see what was going on. I crept to the end of a row and kneeled in the warm dirt. Her 5 brothers were singing melodious songs in Spanish. The stars bent over the little roof. Smoke poked from the stovepipe chimney. It smelled like mashed beans and chili. The old man growled. The brothers kept on yodeling. The mother was silent. Raymond and the kids were giggling in the bedroom. A California home. I hid in the grapevines, digging it all. I felt like $1 million. I was adventuring in the crazy American night. Bea came out, slamming the door behind her. I accosted her on the dark road. What's the matter? Oh, we fight all the time. He wants me to go back to work tomorrow. He says he don't want me fooling around. Jackie, I want to go to New York with you. But how? I don't know, honey. I miss you. I love you. But I have to leave. Yes, we screw one more time, then you leave. We went back to the barn. I made love to her under the tarantula. What was the tarantula doing? We slept a while on the crates. She went back at midnight. Her father was drunk. I could hear him roaring, and then there was silence as he fell asleep. The stars folded over the sleeping countryside. In the morning, Father Heflinger stuck his head through the horse gate and he said, "How you doing, fella?" "Fine. I hope it's all right that I'm staying here." "Sure thing. You going with that little Mexican floozy?" "Oh, she's a very nice girl. Very pretty, too. I think the bull jumped the fence. She's got blue eyes." We talked about his farm and B brought my breakfast. I had my big canvas bag all packed and ready to go to New York, and as soon as I picked up my money in Selma, I knew it was waiting for me by now. I told B I was leaving. She'd been thinking about it all night and was resigned to it. Emotionally, she kissed me in the vineyards and walked off down the row. We turned at a dozen paces, for love is a duel, and looked at each other for one last time. See you in New York, B, I said. She was supposed to drive to New York in a month with her brother, but we both knew she wouldn't make it somehow. At 100 feet, I turned to look at her. She'd just walk on back to the shack, carrying my breakfast plate in one hand, and I bowed my head and watched her. Well, lack a daddy, I was on the road again.